repeating structure we will see is for loops. So for loops, just like C, we have the keyword for and then the bracket start or parenthesis starts. Then we first have the initial action where we initialize any loop control variable. Then we have a semicolon. After that we will have the loop continuation condition, then another semicolon, then we have the action after each iteration. Usually it is the update of the loop variable. Then the parenthesis ends and the block starts, where inside we will have the continuing statements or repeating statements. Okay. So the structure in the flowchart is, first we have some initial action where we initialize our loop control variable. Then we have the loop continuation condition. If the condition is true, we have the repeating statements. Then we have the update or action after each iteration, after which we will go back to the continuation condition. If this is false, then we will actually go to the next part of the program. Here, please note that the initial action is executed only once. It doesn't matter if your loop repeats 1,000,000 times. The initial action is executed only once. And the loop continuation condition actually executes n plus 1 times. That means if the loop is supposed to repeat n times, the continuation condition is executed n plus 1 time. Plus 1 time is because the last case where the result is false and the loop exits also executes. And then you see this action after each iteration. When we write this, we write it inside this for parenthesis before the repeating part. Even if we write it here before the repeating part, the execution happens after the loop body. This is very important and you should note it. Okay, so let's trace a for loop example now with the same example we did before, where we repeatedly printed the line welcome to Java. So first we are declaring the variable I. Then inside the for loop we are initializing the value of I to be 0. So I is our loop control variable here. Then we will check if I is less than 2. That means 0 is less than 2, which is true. Since it's true, right after this line we will enter the loop and print welcome to Java. When we are done printing this, we will go back to the update of I here, I++. So I becomes 1. Then we loop back into the continuation control and compare if 1 is less than 2 or not. Since this is true, we will again go directly inside the loop and print welcome to Java. Afterwards, we will go back in the update part and I now becomes 2. Then it will compare if 2 is less than 2 or not, which is false. So now it will go to the next part of the program. So that means the loop, we expect the loop to execute 2 times. So I equals 0 executes only once at the start. Then the continuation condition was checked 3 times, so 2 plus 1, 3 times, and the loop body and the update happened 2 times. Okay, so we should be careful about some things now. So the initial action in a for loop can be a list of 0 or more comma separated expressions. So in the initialization part, like this, here we have 1, so no problem. But we may have no initialization at all. Still, we will just keep this empty and put a semicolon. The semicolon needs to be there. Then we can have multiple initialization, which we need to separate by comma. Similarly, the update or the action after each iteration can be a list of 0 or more comma separated statements. That means here Since it is 1, so no problem. If we didn't have any update, we would keep it as empty. If we had more than one update, so we will have multiple expressions separated with commas. So we can write like this. So int I equal 1, I less than 10, and inside this update or action after each iteration, we would have this statement, system.out.println I++. So what will it do? It will print the current value of I and then increment the value of I, which will be used to compare here, the updated value of I. Similarly, if we had two initialization like I equals 0 and j equals 0, so inside one statement we can declare two variables I and j just like C, but we need to separate them with commas. Similarly, if we need to update both I and j, we put it here separated with a comma. So the loop continuation condition, if they are omitted here, so nothing is there, it will be assumed to be true, and that for loop will become an infinite loop. And in the while loop, if we want to make a while loop to be infinite loop, we need to put here true. Now let's look at some common error. So just like if, for the for loop after this, if we put a semicolon, this is a logic error. It's not a syntax error or compile error, neither it is a runtime error. What will happen is it will have I equals 0 here, and then 0 less than 10, which is true. Then it will try to enter the loop and it will have this semicolon. When it gets the semicolon, it will think that, oh, I have done the repeating part, so it's done. Now let's update I by doing I++. So I becomes 1. Then it comes here, then 1 less than 10, which is true. Then it again wants to enter the loop and have this semicolon, and it thought, okay, so the repetition is done, let's update I now. Then I becomes 2, and like this it will continue. Okay, so this is a logic error because we don't want this, and again it happens usually when we use the next line block style. Okay, similarly the same error happens for the while loop as well. So let's look at the code of the while loop here. So if we have this int I equals 0 and then while I less than 10, then we have this logic error. Just pause this video and try to think about what will be the output of this program. Okay. So here I is 0 and then it will compare 0 less than 10, which is true. Then it tries to go into the loop and gets the semicolon, and it will think, okay, my repetition is done, so let me go and check the condition again. Then again I is 0 still, so 0 less than 10, which is again true. So it will again try to enter the loop, and seeing the semicolon it will think, okay, my repetition is done. Again it will compare 0 less than 10. So like this it will continue here. So this becomes an infinite loop, and again this is a logic error. This is not a syntax error, this is not a runtime error. However, in the case of do while loop, after the do while loop, after the while statement, this semicolon is part of the syntax, and this is not an error. Okay, so we need to be careful when we use the for loop, while loop and next line block style using the semicolon.